Across the world, the political right is on the rise, and young men are making up a core part of their support. The usual explanation for this is economic, that young men and boys are falling behind in education, and young male jobs have borne the brunt of automation.
It's tough being a young man this day and age because there's no jobs going, do you know what I mean?
But in the US, where young men got behind Donald Trump in huge numbers, Gen Z are actually experiencing more upward mobility than millennials, and a higher rate of growth in living standards than even baby boomers had when they were young. So is this something cultural? I'm travelling around the country to find out what's going on.
Yeah, but we might get cancelled for some of our views, you know.
My first stop is a conference of the global right fronted by Jordan Peterson, billed as a chance to save Western civilization.
This is pretty nuts, man, to be fair.
The core of Western civilization that we're attempting to reinvigorate, let's say, is long-term, stable, married, monogamous, heterosexual, child-centered marriages.
A lot of the speakers on stage seem to lay the blame for civilizational collapse on the sexual revolution. So I headed onto the floor to see what people thought of that, and bumped into Britain's strictest head.
You're the world's strictest head.
I am. Well, I don't know, but yes, apparently.
We're trying to investigate why it is that young men increasingly are turning towards right-wing politics. And I wondered, in your position as a teacher, do you have any insights about why you think it might be happening?
Men need to feel like they're in charge. You know? I mean, they do. The way modern life is now, with the technology, with the way in which the gender roles have sort of been swapped, all of that's been taken from it. And that, I presume, is why they looked at Jordan Peterson, who says, that's not good enough, clean your room. And they're going, yeah, tell me more. What else do I need to do? What else? Pull your shoulders back. Yeah, I can do that, you know? Because they want to feel like men.
People have lived out this hedonism, and they are fed up of it, and they want meaning again. I understand it entirely, why they'd be turning away from these sorts of socially left-wing ideas.
Increasingly we see women, they've got higher educational achievement, they're increasingly taking high-powered jobs that would have previously been the province of men exclusively. Do you think that this may also be a factor?
It for sure should be considered, and I think most of the people are told the most important thing in your life is to fulfill your dreams and become what you want. The most important thing is you, and that's also women being told. So what we get is that women will focus more on their career than building a family, and that has, in my opinion, an extreme backlash.
I feel sorry for my young men at school. I think young men find it really difficult to find girlfriends. A friend of mine, her son, he said the girls have to try us out, and if they like us, then they'll give us an in. But otherwise, you know, which is just a real role reversal.
This current state of affairs, you could look at it as in a positive light and say that it's the result of the empowerment of women. That women now, they want to have that power.
Yes, I mean, I do agree to some extent, but I think there's a sweet spot, and I think perhaps we've gone too far the other way.
It's a sort of challenge upon a challenge to be invited to be optimistic about the future from the wastelands of East London.
We've come to this supposed wasteland of East London to see if any of the ideas that the right have about the problems facing young men ring true for people here. I mean, how do you feel as a young man in 2025? Do you think that things are getting more difficult for young men?
Of course it is. It's a fact. Everyone's living off finances, mortgages, people can't pay it, debt collectors coming to people's houses, ruining people's lives.
The home nucleus was very important, you know, like the 2.3 or 2.4 we used to call it. That's now been etched out of society, and we're just seeing the brokenness of society because of it. That's my opinion.
So you see it as the breakdown of the family is the kind of major problem which young men are facing and the reason why they're in such difficulty.
In terms of just like the big three, wife, kids, and the ability to take care of them. If you look at the house price 50 years ago, let's say for example, I'm taking it out of thin air, it's gone up 5x. But when you look at the yearly salaries of these workers, has it gone 5x as well?
Nowadays, to find a girlfriend, I'll say it's more or less impossible. Do you know why? It's social media. Girls go on the phone. How many DMs do boys get? And how many DMs do girls get?
A lot of young men have told us that they feel there's increased pressures now and how it is, the kinds of things they're supposed to live up to as men?
I feel like the pressures are the same, but it's just more put out there. You've got the TikTok, you've got the Instagram, you've got the Snapchat. As a guy, it's almost like it's a competition. Life is a competition. The same way inflation goes up every year, that a chicken mayo is not 99p anymore, it's 129, 139. Maybe 50 years ago, if you wanted a nice car, a beautiful wife, you could have this. But now that same standard has maybe doubled, tripled.
The right has got a point about some of the problems that the young men are facing. The left doesn't have that narrative, it doesn't have ownership of that idea of self-improvement. But the right, the answers that they're offering, I mean, to me, they feel like snake oil. I wanted to see if what these young men were telling us was backed up by actual data. So I spoke to William Costello, an evolutionary psychologist and expert on the modern dating market. We've been out and we've spoken to quite a lot of young men. From a lot of them, what they're saying to us is they're finding it more difficult to establish themselves. And a lot of the young men that we spoke to said that it's actually harder to get a girlfriend now. I just wondered if you could sort of explain to us a little bit about what's going on.
So modern men might feel disgruntled because for the first time in a number of generations, they actually have to compete not only with other men, but with women choosing singlehood. Women are increasingly free to choose singlehood, to prioritize their careers, or to not settle for a guy unless he really is the one who fulfills all their dreams.
A lot of young men we spoke to said that social media had raised expectations around what women want from a man.
Well, social media drops you into the world's largest status game, and you're surrounded by the most high-achieving people thrown in your face, the most attractive people every day. And it might be an uncomfortable truth that we have to reckon with, that for previous generations, a lot of women were settling with men out of strict economic necessity, or out of really strong cultural norm of feeling pressured to do so. And this comes through in a lot of data. For example, in one of the biggest studies ever done on the motivations for women to freeze their eggs, the top reason that consistently came through was that they couldn't find a guy who measured up to their standards in time to have a child.
Along with influencers like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate, MMA has become emblematic of the right's appeal to young men. So we're outside a cage fight in Manchester to ask some of the young men here if they've got any idea what's going on.
Everyone feels like they aren't represented, they aren't valued, they just want to be themselves and be that person who can be relied on, can be looked, who can be respected. Most importantly, more young men don't feel respected, and that's all they're looking for ultimately.
Do you think it's more difficult for men to find a partner now than maybe it was 20 or 30 years ago?
Well, yeah, the internet and it makes it harder, yeah. I'd say so, lad, yeah.
And why does the internet make it harder? What is it?
Oh, it's just the stereotypes people have to live up to, isn't it?
Do you think young men are finding it more difficult to find relationships nowadays?
Definitely, I've never had a girlfriend.
Do you say your situation was?
27 and never had a girlfriend.
And is that for want of trying or like?
No, it's just not found the one. Dating to marry these days, I think, is quite rare.
Recently, elections around the world have shown that young men are increasingly voting for right-wing parties, but young women increasingly vote for the liberal left. I mean, why do you think that discrepancy might be turning out?
I think more because the left wing is more the easy options, more like the easier way of hearing things, whereas the right wing say things that are more difficult to hear. I think it's the truth, because the truth does hurt sometimes.
In the last general election, I voted for Lib Dems. Reform is scary. I don't know why people want to vote. Oh, well, I can see why, but...
Maybe the kinds of political issues which they're raising and which they're pointing towards are quite attractive to a lot of young men.
The right-wing parties, like Reform, are saying men have got this power, because they're saying we should go back to this olden time. They always push this emphasis of it's not good anymore, we need to change, we need to go back to how it was back in the olden days, but that seems to always have this subtle undertones of we need to go back to the times when man was in control, woman was subservient, and I don't think that's right for the modern age.
Right, so I'm in the fight. Can't really show you that much because we're not really allowed to film, but the testosterone levels are through the roof. There's two guys in the octagon wrestling up on the floor. People have tense, man. It's a tense atmosphere. It's good though.
This is it.
And here we are on our road. Pothole, danger potholes ahead. Your council is broken and Reform will fix it.
So what are parties like Reform actually offering these young men? I've come to their biggest rally to date to find out.
So this barbershop is Keir's Cuts. He cuts everything apart from your tax. Starmer sack race, so the odds are on for that, whether Starmer is sacked. And here are the odds on the new Prime Minister, Nigel Farage, to be the new Prime Minister.
And with that, on came Nigel.
Oh, come on, you'll embarrass me. I'm shy, you know that. We know the values that bind us. And the remarkable thing about Reform is we cross every single segment of the British population. Increasingly, we're seeing younger voters coming towards us.
I wanted to see if Farage's claim that Reform is building a broad coalition had any truth in it for the young men at the rally.
I've tried to be left-wing myself, but because social media is becoming more uncensored than ever, it's kind of just put things to me that it's okay to be right-wing as a youth, because many youths do share the same concerns as us.
The Englishman is sort of forgotten in a way. Especially with the immigration and all of these laws coming in, we're just sort of forgotten about.
The last time we saw political fervour like this was probably around the Labour leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. I was wondering, what do you guys think of Jeremy Corbyn?
He reached out to me. Jeremy, I wouldn't say he was a bad candidate. Before I moved to Reform, I didn't mind Labour, but then with Keir Starmer, I just felt he let the country down.
Politically, I'm closer to Corbyn than Farage, but I think young people are just looking for someone to look to, not necessarily policies to look to. So when they see Nigel Farage saying, these two parties have done this to your life, your future's going to be terrible, but we're going to fix it. And Farage can speak so much louder than the Conservatives and the Labour Party can. So I think it doesn't have to necessarily be Farage, or not even a right-wing party, just a successful, popular protest party, I think, is what young people are looking for, and that's what the Reform Party is.
Everywhere we went, we found discontent amongst young men, and for many, a sense that the world was leaving them behind. It felt like the votes of many young men were there for the taking, and Reform seemed to understand this the best.